castle was one of a number of coastal fortifications planned by King Henry VIII to guard against enemy attack, whether from sea or land. Its round walls offer a good defense against cannonballs or anything else the heavy guns of the period could fire at it. It also had its own heavy guns, with sufficient range to damage any hostile ship which came too close, as well as lighter guns for defense against land attack. So let's now turn the clock back to the year of our Lord 1595. Just 7 years have passed since the defeat of the Spanish Armada. The castle is still manned, and the war with Spain is not over yet.
Aye, that's true enough. We may have singed the King of Spain's beard, but still he fights on, and so do we. His ships prowl round this Cornish coast like boxes round a hen coop. Let me introduce myself. Hannibal Vivian, captain of St. Mawes Castle.
Above the great fireplace would be his own coat of arms. Inside the fireplace are 2 recesses. The one on the left was possibly for warming plates or keeping the food hot, and the one on the right might have been for salt. St. Mawes Castle was meant to be lived in as well as being a fort. Doorway, a window. Beneath it are 2 long vertical slots for the drawbridge chains. In medieval castles, there were murder holes to allow the defenders to drop missiles on any attackers who managed to get over the bridge, or to sluice water down on any fire that the enemy might have started. Here at St. Mawes, there are 3 similar holes at floor level, though it is doubtful if these were really intended for the same purpose. Let's move now to the middle of the room. We must imagine several men are gathered here, waiting for Captain Vivian to give them the latest news.
Our situation could hardly be worse, and I shall not disguise the fact. As you've probably heard, the Spaniards have landed at Mawes, slaughtering all who dared oppose them. Aye, and others too. That messenger was lucky to escape with his life. The town now lies in ruins, and is the same with Newlyn and Penzance. It makes my blood boil. So, their galleys appeared off Padstow in North Cornwall, threatening to land. Why, you may well ask. Some say King Philip of Spain intends converting England back to the Roman Catholic religion. There's plenty still of that persuasion here in Cornwall. Some Englishmen, I've heard tell, are abroad, training as priests to be smuggled back here in secret. Their court, well, remember that Catholic priest Edmund Campion? Executed for high treason.
In days like these, with twice the normal number of men in the castle, the kitchen is kept particularly busy. Going over to the fireplace, we can visualize a large cauldron of mutton stewing over the fire, with vegetables too, cooking in the steam. No doubt it smelled delicious. Try to imagine what it must have been like in 1595, as the men waited nervously for the first enemy ship to appear. When it does, the heavy guns on the gun decks will open up, while here on the wall walk, each man will stand by his swivel gun, ready to fire on any landing party that manages to get ashore. In the gaps in the battlements, that is, in the embrasures, there are sockets on each side to hold a wooden beam used to steady the gun. The hole in the center of the stone is for the gun's spike, which enabled the gunner to swivel the weapon round to cover the enemy from whichever direction he might choose to attack. One man has been celebrating the departure of the Spanish a bit too enthusiastically, and that's where he now finds himself, in the oubliette. We are now on the west bastion, with an array of heavy guns in front of us. There are 5 gun positions here, guarding the narrowest point of the entrance to the estuary. The large cannon in the center is one kind that might have been here at the time. It is bronze, made by the famous Venetian gunmakers Alberghetti, and it's called a saker. Its long barrel gives it a good range, though it could not quite shoot as far as the culverins, another type of cannon, which were also installed here at St. Mawes. The other guns we can see date from 200 years later, from George III's reign, and they're the type Admiral Nelson would have been familiar with. But the basic technology was much the same. You'll observe that each gun was positioned in a small vaulted alcove known as a casemate. These casemates are quite deep and wide enough to give the men room to work, though becoming narrow at the actual gun port as a protection against snipers. On the outside, it widens out again to ensure a broad field of fire. And it is here that we can imagine our master gunner putting his new recruits through their paces, conscious that the Spanish fleet might arrive at any moment, when the gunnery will be in earnest.
Now, when a gun like this is fired, it'll kick back at you. So what do? Right, you stand clear. Never forget that, or you could lose your leg. Now, let's say the gun has been fired. What do we do next? We swab out. That's why we need a pail of water nearby. Right, get the pail. That's what it's for.
Good morning.